Any review of the facts. The response comes after MSU announced last week it intends to fire Tucker unless reasons are presented why it should not. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Trying to clear troubles as you travel Pasadena on that 210 West Sierra Madre, where we do have a wreck in a center lane. You're busy from that 605. Also Pasadena 210 West approaching Lake. There's a collision from earlier. That's onto the right shoulder. Trying to wrap up troubles in Diamond Bar, that 60 East at Grand. A collision onto the right side. We're slow from Fullerton Road. And the City of Industry, your 605 North of Valley Boulevard. A wreck onto the right shoulder. Here's slowness from at least the 60 freeway.
MVP's bonus days are back at Lowe's. Shop Klein Tools and get 5 times the bonus points. Lowe's knows pros. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees after applicable discounts, if any. Valid 9/18 through 9/29, subject to change. DeWalt offer valid through 10/11.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams played Cincinnati tough last night but lost by 3. Rams coach Sean McVay has a lot of work to do with his offense. The Rams made only 1 of 11 third down conversions and didn't score a touchdown until a minute left in the game. Quarterback Matthew Stafford was sacked 6 times and threw 2 interceptions. An arrest warrant has been issued for Chargers cornerback J.C. Jackson. Police in North Attleboro, Massachusetts said Jackson missed a deadline on Friday to pay a $600 speeding ticket and complete a 4-hour class on reckless driving. Jackson got a ticket in 2021 for driving 100 miles an hour when he was with the New England Patriots. If I was Chargers coach Brandon Staley, I would order Jackson to go back to Massachusetts and take care of both of those obligations before he's allowed to play again. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
On Monday, October 9th, don't miss the KBLA Talk 1580 exclusive. The tape. 1 year later.
Y'all were coming for us.
Yeah, but Tavis, that's not in my heart. I wasn't coming for anyone like that. I apologize, but that was not me. That's not in my heart. And like I said a few moments ago, I have a solid, demonstrable record of shared power that's real and concrete. That can't be misinterpreted.
Join Tavis Smiley and an all-star panel of political insiders, influencers, and journalists for a look back at the crisis that shook LA City Hall when 4 Latino leaders were caught on tape making racist, demeaning, and derogatory statements about black people and other fellow citizens. On Monday, October 9th, exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580, The Tape, 1 year later. We're broadcast live in afternoon drive from 5 to 7 p.m. with an immediate encore presentation from 7 to 9 p.m. When all was said and done, was more said than done. 1 year later, are there fractures in LA's black-brown political partnership? And where do we go from here? Don't miss The Tape, 1 year later. Only on KBLA Talk 1580, Monday, October 9th, live from 5 to 7 p.m. with an immediate encore presentation from 7 to 9 p.m. We've got a lot to talk about.
The world is yours. The world is yours. It's mine, it's mine. Whose world is this? It's mine, it's mine, it's mine. Whose world is this? The world is yours. The world is yours. It's mine, it's mine, it's mine. I sip the Don Pete, watching Gandhi till I'm charged and writing in my book of rhymes. All the words past the margin. The whole of mic I'm throbbing. Mechanical movement, understandable smooth issue that murderers move with. The thief's theme. Play me at night, they won't act right. The fiend of hip hop has got me stuck like a pipe. The mind activation, react like I'm facing time like Pappy Mason with pins I'm embracing.
I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm delighted to have you tuned into our program today, all 3 hours. In this hour, Kevin Powell is our guest, one of the most celebrated political, cultural, literary, and hip-hop voices in America for quite a while now. He has distinguished himself quite nicely in that regard. He joins us in this hour to talk about his political article entitled Hip Hop and America Are Changing and Not for the Better. Hip hop was rooted in politics and social justice and a diversity of voices, but now at age 50, has it become a minstrel show? I am pleased to welcome my friend and brother Kevin Powell back to this program. Kevin, how are you today, sir?
And Tavis, great to hear your voice, and thank you for having me. Thank you, staff, for having me as well. Appreciate y'all.
No, man, good to have you back on, and I'm glad we have an hour because there's a whole lot to talk about. How many words? First of all, this is a long piece. It's not an article. It's like an expose. How many words is this piece, Kevin?
It's 5,000 words. It started off as 2,500, and the editor and I want to shout out Teresa Wills, the amazing sister who was at the Washington Post for years, who's there at Politico. She worked with me on the piece. Yeah.
No, it's a long piece and worth reading, but I had to sit down and just take my time to work my way through it because you know how I read. I'm reading and highlighting as I go, knowing I'm going to talk to you about this thing. So I'm reading it and highlighting.
Yes,
it's a long piece, but it covers a lot of ground. I'm actually glad you wrote it. My second question is, why Politico? There's so many places that this piece could have been placed on the 50th birthday of hip-hop. And I'm just curious as to why this particular piece on a political site like Politico.
They were the only ones that asked, honestly. Outside of Ebony has a special celebration of hip-hop, and I want to shout them out. I did a short interview with the brother artist, Nathaniel Mary Quinn. But other than Ebony, no one asked me, in spite of how long I've been involved in the culture, to write anything this year. And she came along and said, hey, would you like to do a piece that kind of puts things in political context? And for me, I've been talking about hip-hop as an offshoot of the civil rights movement for a very long time, as I lay out in the piece. And so I thought it was a unique opportunity. And again, I got to work with an amazing Black woman editor, Teresa Wiltz. Have to shout her out because it wouldn't exist without her being there. So I'm really appreciative of the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, God works in mysterious ways because you got on Politico and everybody has now seen it. I mean, let's be clear. Politico ain't a bad platform to be on. When you're on Politico, everybody reads it and hears about it. And these days, I'm not sure, this is just my own sense of this, I'm not sure platforms matter as much as they used to. And the reason for it is that once it's out there, it goes viral. If it's a good piece, if it's a controversial piece, if it's a provocative piece, if it's worth reading, it's going to go viral no matter who posted it. So whether it's Politico or Ebony or the Washington Post, New York Times, it almost doesn't matter these days. If it's worth reading and people are talking about it, trust and believe it's going to spread virally. So that's just my view. But I'm glad it's on Politico because it does, in fact, put this conversation in a uniquely different frame. As you put it, it puts hip-hop in a political context. So that said, let's just get our frame right. Tell me what you see when you see hip-hop in a political frame, in a political context 50 years in.
Well, anytime that Black people, as you know, Tavis, express themselves, the very nature of it, I mean, which you've been doing your entire career, me as a writer, you in radio and TV, that by its very nature is political. Like I said in a piece, George Orwell said back in the day, everything is political. And so, this culture that was created by working class African-American, West Indian, and Latinx folks in New York City, and we know there was a parallel energy happening there on the West Coast with the African-American community and the Latinx Chicano community. These are the same poor people that Dr. King warned us not to abandon at the end of his life. And that's why I draw a direct connection to that with the Vietnam War, Civil Rights Movement, the Poor People's Campaign, because essentially they were left to make something out of nothing. Many of us who grew up poor know exactly what I'm talking about, be it on the West Coast, the East Coast, the middle of the country, who embraced hip-hop. It was a way to have some sort of possibilities. There's no, for good or bad, however people want to talk about it, I talk about it in the pieces. Tavis, there's no millionaires, there's no billionaires, there's no Jay-Z, there's no Diddy, there's none of this stuff that we see. If this culture hadn't been created in the first place, it created so many possibilities for so many of us. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying in the piece, as we celebrate 50 years, let's not just do glossy celebrations. There's some real serious stuff that's happening here. I mean, I just heard you a moment ago talking about the Biden administration and, obviously next year is a critical presidential election. And we see a lot of people who are hip hop heads siding with Donald Trump, in the right wing. And so we have to break this stuff down. Like, what is this? What is this? And, we just saw Kamala Harris host all these rappers at her place and as the vice president. Is that just symbolic gestures? We're just trying to get Black votes. Are we serious about really embracing the people who created this culture in the first place? That's these are the dialogues we need to be having.
And I'm glad we're having it. It's going to be a rich hour. I always have fun talking to Kevin Powell because it's going to be deep. As he said, it's going to be rich. It's going to be empowering and uplifting in a variety of ways. When we come forward, I want to start, and Kevin said a lot already that I want to interrogate. I want to go to that Kamala Harris thing. I got some critiques of that myself. We'll talk about some of these hip-hop artists who are supporting Donald Trump. But I want to start with Kevin's abiding love for hip-hop. And I want to start there because it seems to me this happens a lot, and it's always unfair. When you write a piece that's getting people to think critically about a particular issue, what gets lost in your critique is your love of the genre, your love of the issue, your love of the person. Well, you can do both. You can critique it and love it, and because you critique it doesn't mean you love it, doesn't mean you ought to be taken to task for your critique. That said, we'll start with Kevin Powell's love for hip-hop, and we'll jump from there when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom. Escalade IQ. This the intro to the all-electric Cadillac perfected like Zoom. And on a full charge, you get 450 miles without the stop haiku. This is what I do. Daddy fat intellect since 92. Linked all the way back, panoramic roof. Come with 24-inch rim standard. Ooh, why? Shawty don't kill him. Cadillac diamond in the back, cold chillin'. And when I'm on attack, on the track is no ceiling. Sky's the limit. You hear me? You hear me? Straight drop, no parachutes. Lay lines like a longitude and latitude. Feel it, beloved, clearly we're hustling. Bussin', truckin'. Cadillac, Cadillac.
For more on the Escalade IQ, visit Cadillac.com. Available late 2024. GM estimate 450-mile range. On a full charge based on development testing and/or analytical projection. Consistent with SCHA 1634 revision 2017 MCT. Range subject to change prior to production. Annual rates may vary based on service factors, including ambience temperature, terrain, battery age, and condition loading, and how you use and maintain your vehicle.
Applications are now being accepted for the City of Los Angeles Emergency Renters Assistance Program. The program provides up to 6 months of rental arrears to low-income residential renters who are at risk of homelessness due to unpaid rent as a result of COVID-19 or other financial hardship. Applications will not be accepted after 6 p.m. on October 2nd, 2023. Go online 24/7 at housing.lacity.org or call 888-379-3150 from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday and see if you qualify. Apply today.
Is your eyesight changing?
I can't read this anymore.
Don't lose hope. People just like you are working every day using Braille, screen magnification, speech technology, and other tools and blindness skills. Your eyesight may have changed, but your goals, they don't have to. We can help. Visit us on the web at blind.org. The National Federation of the Blind. Live the life you want.
Now. We tend not to think about now. We dream about tomorrow, relive yesterday. But right now in front of us is victory over cancer. Right now, cancer research funded by the V Foundation is leading to better treatments and saving lives. Victory over cancer is there for the taking by you, because today's cancer research is tomorrow's victory. Learn more at v.org.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Extreme heat increases your risk of heat illness and death. Warning signs of heat exhaustion include muscle cramps, headache, and nausea. Signs of heat stroke include a fever of 103 or higher, confusion, and loss of consciousness. Protect yourself by limiting time spent outdoors, staying hydrated, and staying cool in air-conditioned spaces. Learn how to stay safer from extreme heat at heatreadyca.com. Brought to you by the state of California.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
This is Tavis Smiley in dialogue with Kevin Powell about his recent piece for Politico called Hip Hop and America Are Changing and Not for the Better. We got this hour to dissect his views on America not changing for the better and hip hop not changing for the better. We'll get into all that in just a moment here. Let me start though, Kevin, with your love for hip hop. You're a hip hop head. You come of age during this era. So let's start with that story, that relationship to the music and the culture, and then we'll jump from there.
I mean, I'm like a lot of folks. 1979 is such a watershed moment for black music. I mean, we're talking Earth, Wind and Fire, Chic, Michael Jackson's first solo album. I mean, there was so much stuff going on. And then these folks called Sugar Hill Gang dropped this record called Rapper's Delight that was rapping over Sheik's Good Times. And it was game changing, you know, and they weren't necessarily the best or even the first. You know, King Tim's Personality was a rap song that was released in August of '79 by the Fatback Band, but it didn't get the play that Rapper's Delight did. But I was hooked. And I was one of those kids growing up in the New York City area, Jersey City, across the river from New York City, that was deeply impacted by graffiti, dancing. I did all of it. I mean, my best friend in high school was a DJ, you know, and it's wild to me when I hear folks from California now, from LA, talking about Uncle Jam and all those folks on the West Coast who were doing the same thing. It was just this incredible energy, and it was the first time we had a music for us that wasn't our parents' Motown or Stax. It wasn't their spirituals or blues. It was something that we created. And it was just really accessible because you didn't have to know how to sing. You know, you just had to have an incredible ability to spit rhymes. And as you know, Tavis, as someone who's been a pioneer for us in radio for all these years, you know, we didn't know at the time that there had been radio personalities, black ones, down south, West Coast, East Coast, everywhere, who were literally rapping on the radio back in the day. But a lot of us didn't know that we were too young to know those kind of things. But when I started getting older and connecting the dots, it just made it even more powerful for me. So it was a way to express ourselves, and hip-hop really did save the lives of a lot of us. There's no way I would have 16 books in the writing career I have if it wasn't for hip-hop. So much of the stuff that I've done, you know, be it about Tupac Shakur or Snoop Dogg or other folks through the years, is because of hip-hop. Quincy Jones started Vibe magazine because of hip-hop. I got an opportunity to be on staff there because of hip-hop, and then it just opened up more doors after that. So that's the part I love. What I don't love is what we were talking about today. Yeah. Is how it's been co-opted, commodified, commercialized, and rerouted. The balance, the diversity has been taken out of it, you know, and literally, you know, now that I think about it, I think I said this when I was in the studio with you in person. I can't wait to come back to your building. The fact that you got to shout you. I mean, you epitomize hip hop because hip hop is making something out of nothing, winning on our own terms. You and WVON and Word in Philadelphia, 3 black-owned radio stations. I mean, that's hip hop to me. You know, own yourself, own your own possibilities. And, you know, when I think about it, Tavis, it's just, you know, it hurts my heart because we are not NIGGAs. We're not BITC agents. I think about how your very first show ever on BET, literally, I came to you because that's when Tupac was killed. Literally, I came from Vegas to do your show, you know. And so, you know, it's profound when you think about where this culture has been, you know. But at that time, we didn't know that it was going to turn into this kind of minstrel show, as I call it in the piece. And people and I'll say it, I don't have to, you know, I were texting last week. People, overall, the response has been overwhelmingly beautiful, and people are like, you're making me think. I don't agree with everything. I don't want big full agreement, but there's folks who have taken offense to the word minstrel, and they refuse to read the piece.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, well, think about it historically. The minstrel show was created in the midst of slavery in the 1800s. Black folks depicted as ugly, dumb, lazy, over-sexualized, all these things I say in the piece, you know, and that had a catastrophic effect on the self-esteem, the psyche of black folks. Blackface came out of that. We still have the residue of it to this day. People still walking around with blackface, doing blackface in America, in Poland, as we saw in the last couple of weeks at other places. But you think about the images. I think about something, Tavis. Nathan McCall wrote a book called What's Going On, his autobiography a few years back. And he talks about it in his autobiography. And I love blaxploitation films. I mean, I got Superfly and the Mac in my collection. You better believe I love those movies. But he said those movies had an effect on him ending up in prison because he digested those images. Back then in the 70s, you had to literally get out of your house and go to the movie theater. Now, with our iPhones and our Androids, 24/7, 365, you have this thing on loop of these narrow definitions of what blackness is, and I think it's destructive to our people. Hip-hop didn't create this stuff, but I believe that the industry said, wait a minute, we don't want the political stuff. We don't want to hear Chuck D. We don't want to hear KRS-One. We don't want to hear the political Ice Cube that we heard back in the day who wrote, you know, the most powerful anti-police brutality songs when he was with NWA. We don't want that. What we want is the disrespect of women, the N-word. We want all the violence, the drug taking and drug selling, the anti-intellectualism, not having the kind of conversations that you have on your show or you all have at your radio station. We want the opposite of all of that. We don't want to empower black people.
So is the indictment? You said a mouthful there. I didn't want to interrupt. I want to let you get it all out.
Yes,
is the indictment is the indictment primarily of the artist or the industry?
No. When I say the industry, so the culture of hip hop is the DJ, the MC or rapper, the graffiti artist, the graffiti writer, the dance element. Those are the 4 core elements of hip hop. That's the culture, which was created about life and possibilities, as I say in the political piece. The industry, I'm talking about record labels. I'm talking about the mainstream commercialized radio stations. I'm talking about video channels. I'm talking about magazines, media, who are all, I'm even talking about the podcast phenomenon. There's so many hip hop podcasts out there where it's just kind of, it's on a recurring loop, the same conversations, the same images over and over again. And if you're like, I mean, I'm from the hood. You know where I'm coming from. I talked about it on your show when I was there at the station a few months back. Single mama. I didn't know nothing about no Black history. I didn't know nothing about nothing. And so I grew up digesting the most horrific images of Black folks, not even realize what I was digesting. And there was nothing to counter it until I got to college and I started understanding, wait a minute, you come from rich and beautiful history. That was back then before we had multiple 500 TV channels like I do now, Brother Tavis. What I'm talking about, imagine all these kids, be they South Los Angeles or Brooklyn, New York, where I'm at right now, your station in South Los Angeles or Brooklyn, New York, where I'm at, if they're not being exposed to the totality of the Black experience, they don't realize how much beauty and joy and power is in our history and our images, and all you're getting over and over again is a steady diet of the same stuff. That's going to have a catastrophic effect on how you feel about yourself and how you treat each other. So it may not have created the conditions, but it can reinforce the conditions. And that's what we need to understand as Black people when we're debating about, well, Kev, it's just music. No, it's not just music, because it can either music, Al Sharpton said it, it's not enough to say we're going to reflect what's going on. The music should also correct what's going on if we're serious about love for our people.
But I always struggle with this. Because I don't believe you're saying this, and if you are, I want to press my claim here.
Yes, sir.
I hear everything you're saying. I don't disagree with any of it, and yet I struggle with whether or not everything that is rapped, everything that is in hip hop music, has to necessarily be socially redemptive. I find myself, reminding people that Marvin did saying what's going on, but he also saying let's get it on. Yeah, exactly. You did both. What's going on? Let's get it on. So does everything out of their mouths have to be socially redemptive?
Absolutely not. But ask yourself a question, and the listeners out there should ask themselves a question. When is the last time we've heard an incredible love song from Black people in the hip-hop era of the last 25, 30 years that's on the level of Marvin Gaye, the Stylistics, the Temptations? We can go down a list of people. Where are even the love songs at? And so what you're talking about with what's going on Marvin Gaye, but let's get it on Marvin Gaye, is balance. And what I say in the political piece, where is the balance in our music? This is the first time since our enslavement. We had field house, blues, spirituals. We had ragtime. We had jazz, rock and roll, soul music. This is the first time in our history where we don't have music that is balanced and diverse. On those plantations, they had songs that were work songs. They had songs that were about love. They had songs that were coded language for resistance and escaping from slavery. They had all of that. But what we have now is a lack of balance. Man, I don't want everything to be Chuck D and Public Enemy. I don't want everything, to be Kendrick. I love Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar is my favorite rapper right for the last several years. Shout out to Kendrick Lamar. Shout out to LA. Shout out to the West Coast. But, it shouldn't just be Kendrick, as I say in the piece, who is putting out music where he's exploring who he is as a Black man, his relationship with his wife, his children, being a father. He's talking about going to Africa. All these different things. Are we saying that we are okay with not being well-rounded? Marvin Gaye was well-rounded. I'm so glad you pointed to that example, Tavis, because Marvin was incredibly well-rounded, even with his own personal demons and all that kind of stuff. You knew what was going on. He was constantly exploring. I'm saying we should not be comfortable with not even exploring who we are. And why is it just one thing where it just feels like a bunch of violence? And I'm not even a prude. I have nothing to do, no problem with sexual expression, sexual liberation. I'm with all of it. But I'm like, as you're talking about Joe Biden and Donald Trump and what may happen in 2024, how is it that we don't have any music? In the last 3 years, even when we had the Black Lives Matter protest explode in 2020, we had to go back to Kendrick Lamar in 2020. All Right song that became a chant for Black Lives Matter because there was hardly any artist on par with Curtis Mayfield, Bob Marley, Nina Simone, anyone making any music. You know what I'm saying, Tabs? We have to constantly go back and say, okay, what does Stevie say about this? This is music from the 60s and 70s. So we're just saying, wait a minute, record labels, video channels, magazines, and all the folks who represent this industry, why is it that a white brother or sister, a white person who makes country western music can make music about if you come to a small town, this was going to happen to you, but then turn around and make a love song, turn around and cover and make all kinds of topics. But when it comes to Black artists in the hip-hop era, whether they're R&B or hip-hop or they're rappers, it's been reduced to only a few things is acceptable for them. Who else is allowed who else is encouraged to do that on the planet is the question.
I'm thinking
in 2023.
No, I hear you. I'm thinking of Jesse Jackson, who once said to me, Tavis, content without context is pretext. That's Jesse Jackson, man. That content without context is pretext. So I hear your critique of hip hop, the music, and the culture. What's your critique of the nation state in which hip hop was developed? What's the critique of America? Because the piece is titled "Hip Hop and America Are Changing and Not for the Better." So let me just pivot from hip hop just for a second to get your critique of the nation in which you are critiquing hip hop.
Well, sir, I mean, just think about where we are. You're in Los Angeles. I'm in New York City. As I've traveled the country, when I came there, and I believe it was in December last year, now that I think about it, I literally went to 15 cities, and everywhere I went, I saw an explosion that I've never seen in my life of homelessness, and more black people, whole families homeless, more black men, more black males than ever before homeless, more younger black males than ever before homeless. And so what is my critique? It's the same one that Dr. King had at the end of his life. Vietnam War speech, April 4th, 1967, 1 year before he's killed. We're sending poor blacks and poor whites to fight poor Asian people in Vietnam. And then he began to talk about he was talking about economic justice, economic empowerment. That's why he was in Watts in 65, Chicago in 66, and he was organizing this thing that became the Poor People's Campaign. It's still the same issue. A small percentage of us are able to do well. The rest of us are struggling. I mean, we should be ashamed of ourselves. It should be a national concern that we have so many people, not just black folks, but Latinx folks, Asian folks, indigenous folks, white folks, working class folks, even middle class folks, who literally are sleeping in campers, trailers, on cardboard, underneath bridges and highways in New York and LA and all over the country. And so those are the conditions that honestly created hip hop in the first place, because Dr. King was saying we are abandoning people, we are forgetting people, we are erasing people, we are othering people, we are rendering people invisible. And we have to ask ourselves the question, when Dr. King's birthday rolls around this January, that was 67, 68 we're talking about. It's about to be 2024, 56, 57 years later. Why are so many people in this country that has so much wealth, so much possibilities, suffering financially? And so hip hop speaks to that. And even in the most horrific, form that I'm talking about, at times where we're obsessed with material things, the reality is too, I understand, because I come from poverty. Poor people, Tavis, do not want to be poor. And how do we feel better about ourselves? The car, the jewelry, the ice grill in our mouths, or even naming our children things like Mercedes. I'm saying our kids' names become things that we aspire to have. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm not knocking, what our brothers and sisters and people are rapping about. What I'm saying is, okay, once you get there, what else are you going to do with this? You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, Harry Belafonte, Sidney Poitier, rest in peace. They understood when they got to a certain level of success, they had a responsibility to make sure that it wasn't just about them, just like what you've been doing with your life. Let me reach back like Harriet Tubman did and empower other people along the way. And that's, Brother Tavis, think about it. You've been doing State of Black America stuff. Everywhere you've gone, it's been like, heck, how can I help black people as I'm going forward? That's what we got to talk about in 2023.
That does need to be discussed. And what also needs to be discussed is the issue you raised earlier, these hip hop artists who are starting to embrace Donald Trump. I'm looking at my clock here, and I know I'm doing the same thing. Woo! I'm looking at my clock here. I know if I pose this to you right now, you won't have time to really unpack it. So let me just say, when we come forward, we're going to get Kevin Powell's temperature on hip hop artists and their embrace of Donald Trump. We're going to spend some time in our final hour today talking with a great writer, Morgan Jerkins, who writes for Vanity Fair, about the obsession that black people seem to have with Italian icons on screen. Think Tony Montana. Think Al Pacino in Scarface. So we'll talk about that obsession. And a lot of hip hop artists love Tony Montana. They love Scarface. So there's an obsession that some of us have with these Italian artists on screen. But there's also, it seems to me, an obsession that some of these hip hop artists have with Donald Trump. I think I get it on a prima facie level. But I'm going to get Kevin Powell to help me drill down a little bit more on what that's all about. His article for Politico, you can read it for yourself. It's called Hip Hop in America Are Changing and Not for the Better. I am delighted to continue this conversation when we come forward with Kevin Powell on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. President Biden heads to Michigan today to join UAW members on the picket lines as they continue their strike against Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis. Former President Trump will visit the state Wednesday to show his support for the union members as well. UAW members say they welcome the support but stress that neither man will be at the bargaining table. Civil rights attorney African-American Benjamin Crump was in Memphis, Tennessee yesterday to discuss the indictment of 9 Shelby County Corrections deputies in the death of inmate Gershon Freeman. Freeman died last year while in a Shelby County jail. Video shows the deputies assaulting him and kneeling on his back. His cause of death was a heart attack. Crump is representing Freeman's family. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
In Illusion Park, we've got an accident working 110 South at Hill Street. Everything moving off to the right shoulder, but you'll find a slowdown back at Figueroa Street. East LA, 10 West at City Terrace. That earlier wreck moving out of lanes. 5 or 6 vehicles involved there, and you've got delays at Eastern Avenue. In Whittier, stalled vehicles, 605 South at Peck Road. In the Center Divider area, traffic's heavy from the 60.
MVP's bonus days are back at Lowe's. Shop Klein Tools and get 5 times the bonus points. Lowe's knows pros. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees after applicable discounts. If any, valid 9/18 through 9/29, subject to change. DeWalt offer valid through 10/11.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man. The Rams played Cincinnati tough last night but lost by 3. Rams coach Sean McVay has a lot of work to do with his offense. The Rams made only 1 of 11 third down conversions and didn't score a touchdown until a minute left in the game. Quarterback Matthew Stafford was sacked 6 times and threw 2 interceptions. An arrest warrant has been issued for Chargers cornerback J.C. Jackson. Police in North Attleboro, Massachusetts said Jackson missed a deadline on Friday to pay a $600 speeding ticket and complete a 4-hour class on reckless driving. Jackson got a ticket in 2021 for driving 100 miles an hour when he was with the New England Patriots. If I was Chargers coach Brandon Staley, I would order Jackson to go back to Massachusetts and take care of both of those obligations before he's allowed to play again. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Discover credit cards automatically double all the cash back you earn at the end of your first year, which means... Wait, hold up. Question for the audio engineer.
Go ahead.
Did I read that right? Discover automatically doubles all your cash back?
Yeah, that's what the script says.
So if I get a Discover card right now, I can earn twice the cash back.
Apparently. Wait! Unlimited first-year cash back match, only from Discover. See terms and learn more at discover.com/match.
I was crossing the street when I met the love of my life. I chased after her. Nothing would stand in my way. Not the dog walker, nor the hot dog vendor. Finally reaching her, I asked, "What do you call that amazing smell?"
Gain Flings.
Gain Flings. My love had a name, but more importantly, it had a scent.
Fall in love with Gain Flings. Seriously good scent. Gain Flings with 50% more freshness ingredients versus leading bargain detergent.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and Affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right.
Y'all gotta try that Febreze car.
Just right, just right, just right. Yeah. La 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 la. Pick up for 40 days of consistency. On low Febreze car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face. When it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah. Breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
That told me I never amount to nothing. To all the people that lived above the buildings that I was hustling from, that called the police on me when I was just trying to make some money to feed my daughter. Yeah. And to all my peoples in the struggle, you know what I'm saying? It's all good, baby. Shake it. It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine. Salt and Pepper and Heavy D up in the limousine. Hanging pictures on my wall. Every Saturday, rap attack, Mr. Magic Marley Marl. I let my tape rock till my tape pop. Smoking weed and bamboo, sipping on private stock. Way back when I had the red and black lumberjack with the hat to match. Remember rapping Duke? The hard, you never thought that hip hop would take it this far.
I hate stepping on Biggie. I hate stepping on the Notorious B.I.G. because he sounds so good. But I figured since Kevin Powell is in Brooklyn, and we're talking about hip hop.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, why not squeeze in some Biggie? I'm Tavis Smiley. Glad to have you tuned in. Our guest is Kevin Powell. We're talking about a beautiful and provocative piece he wrote for Politico called Hip Hop and America Are Changing and Not for the Better. I highly recommend that you read it to get even deeper insights than you can get in this hour from Kevin Powell. It's, again, called Hip Hop and America Are Changing and Not for the Better. Delighted to be in dialogue with Kevin Powell. Kevin, I was talking to my boy Miles. Miles, get on the microphone for a second. Miles is my board op. He's a young 20-something, and he's a rapper himself. When he's not here, he's performing around the country, and I have to fight with this Negro sometimes to make sure he's in the studio when I need him and not on the road too much. But he's doing his thing, and he's amazing as an artist. And he and I were talking during that break about a frame that he wanted me to wrestle with, and his question was, Tavis, how deep are you listening? How deep are you listening? You can have a critique of hip-hop if you're only listening at a surface level. But the question for Miles is, how deep are you listening? So, Miles, unpack that for Kevin Powell.
I mean, because I, first of all, Kevin, appreciate you, man. I got to check out the article in its entirety. But I feel like in the age of streaming, in the age of these algorithms, I get no shortage of great positive hip-hop, of great hip-hop that I think captures the core values that we love hip-hop. And I think that because of the criticism of the mainstream, I get it. But I think at that tone, you also have to critique the listeners as well, the people who are trained to accept this as hip-hop and actually call it hip-hop. I think that's probably where more of the blame would lie as opposed to just the artist and the culture as a whole. Am I wrong?
No, Miles, I appreciate you, and I wish you much success with your career. I believe I met you when I came through there. And we need you, brother. You know, just like we need Kendrick Lamar, we need Chance the Rapper, we need Toby, our brother out of Houston, Texas. We need J. Cole. We need a whole bunch of stuff. My issue is not even what people are saying. I'm going to keep saying it until I'm blue in the face, Miles and Tavis. My issue is the lack of balance and diversity. That's the problem. And I'm someone who's on SoundCloud, YouTube. I'm all over the place, looking TikTok, everywhere, looking for stuff. And what I'm saying to you is, even here, here in Brooklyn, I remember there was a young brother a couple of years ago. He said, "Cat, can you listen to my music?" I said, "Bet." I started listening to it. I said, "Man, you sound like a dollar store Biggie Small, since we just played Biggie." I said, "And first of all, you got a mom and a daddy. You're middle class. You're not from the hood. Why are you saying this stuff?" He couldn't even answer the question. And so it's not so much, blaming anyone. Like James Baldwin said back in the day, if you really love something deeply, then you reserve the right to criticize it. He was talking about America.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about America as well, but we're also talking about hip hop and black people. We have a deep love for our people and for our culture and our community. And we got to say, hey, what's wrong? Because, and the question rhetorically, Tavis and Miles, that I always ask people, what are the people, and I say this in the piece, Tavis, as you know, what are the people allowed to call themselves the equivalent of the N-word or the B-word, and it's mixed and mastered and shipped around the world just the way COVID was shipped around the world, literally, it became this pandemic. And no one can ever answer the question. No one can say, well, this group or that group. And so you got to ask yourself, why has this happened to black people? And music is the one thing, in spite of everything we've been through, being kidnapped from Africa, the Middle Passage, slavery, segregation, being hung from trees, towns like Tulsa, Oklahoma being destroyed, black businesses being destroyed, civil rights movement, all the stuff we've been through, we always had our music to hold on to. And the thing is, what I think about it, Tavis doing a break in Miles, or whoever's playing the music, it's an incredible musical range the music that y'all are playing on the show is what we need, which is all that diversity. I want Frankie Beverly Mays, and I want Biggie, and I want Kendrick. I want all of it. But the reality is, if I brought this music down to my mother, even over the last 25 years, I don't name certain artists. I'm not talking. You notice I haven't said any artists. I didn't really name any artists in my piece.
Yep.
My mama can't listen to this music, and so we got to ask ourselves: are we making music that is now so offensive that women can't listen to it, or our elders can't listen to it, or we don't want our kids to listen to it? I mean, how many times I've had to say to a DJ, "Can you just play the clean version? Because we got some kids up in here, we got some elders up in here."
Miles, I love the point Kevin's making now, that we have entered into a space where the music can't be enjoyed by all. You in some ways, you're limiting your audience.
I 100% get it. I think that that goes to, I think there was a certain point, like you said, when King said that we can't forget about these young kids coming up. I feel that there was a point where the elders let go of hip hop and stopped monitoring the young kids as they were creating. I think that's what led to where we at now. But I think that the solution to that would be, let's stop calling everything hip-hop. Let's stop letting everybody else define what our culture is and what we accept as a certain genre and what we call our music.
Is that part of the problem, Kevin, that we've allowed others to define what hip-hop is 50 years in?
Well, it's others, but it's also some of us. Some of us chase the bag, too. And,
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I'm not going to say any names, but listen, Miles, I've been in and around the music industry, as Tavis knows, for 30 years.
Yep.
So I literally have seen folks make millions of dollars. I've been on panels with people where they said they did not care what kids were listening to in South Los Angeles, in Brooklyn, New York, because their kids get to go to private school because of the money they're making. People have literally said that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And these are black folks, but not just white folks, but these are black folks, because we know the plantation mentality is still in effect. You got folks who actually, if they can't be the overseer or the master, then they want to be in the house. And the house to them means that even if you're selling out your own people for $1 for a bag, and you don't care the destructive effect of it. And so, Miles, I think you should make any kind of music you want. All I ask is look at the model of Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick started off one way, but because he was reading, studying, traveling, paying attention in certain kinds of conversations. If you listen to Mr. Morale, the album he put out a year ago, and Miles, check it out. I wrote a piece about it in Complex Magazine a year ago. It's absolutely brilliant because this brother is actually doing what Tavis referenced earlier. He's looking, Marvin Gaye looked within. And so if you're an artist, no matter what kind of art you have to look in the mirror every now and then. You good with just making the same stuff for 20 years like it's no big deal. There's no growth. There's no evolution. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I can understand when you come from the hood. When I was growing up, we wanted to get out of the hood. When you listen to a lot of our music now, it's like everybody always wants to be in the hood. There's nothing wrong with being in the hood, but like let's do what Nipsey Hussle was trying to do, which is like let's beautify the hood. Let's build the hood up. Let's create opportunities for the hood, not further destroy the hood. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it. Miles does too. He's shaking his head in that regard. We agree. I'm looking at let me do this. I want to get to this conversation that you teed up earlier. About hip-hop, certain artists in hip-hop and their obsession, their affinity, their adulation, adoration, if you will, for Donald Trump. I think I get that on one level, as disturbed as I am by it. I think I get it. But I really want to get Kevin Powell's take on that. Many of you also saw Kamala Harris trying to dance with these hip-hop artists who had gathered for a celebration of the 50th anniversary, and I always have a problem with politicians who, anyway, I'll explain that when we come forward, get Kevin's take on that as well. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
unapologetically progressive, unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
If you're a veteran with a service-connected disability that is directly impacting your ability to work, resources are available to help you find employment. VA's Veteran Readiness and Employment, or VR&E, can assist you with finding a job that uses your existing skills. Or, if you're interested in exploring a new field, a VR&E counselor can help you determine the right education or training options for a new career. Find out if VR&E is right for you by visiting va.gov/VRE today.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look. And unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So, let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California, once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at a gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event. Or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
Hey, I am D.L. Hughley, host of the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, heard weekdays from 2 to 4 exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580. I promise to make you think a little, but laugh a whole lot more. So tune in to the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show 2 to 4 only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Turning my pain into purpose is pretty much what I have done to start this foundation.
In August 2020, after the death of George Floyd, Bridget Floyd and other family members established the George Floyd Memorial Foundation in support of the Black community.
It's going to take more than just us as a foundation. It's going to take the community, the world, to make a change.
Fight for racial justice for the Black community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Super. My praying mama proud of a little black boy. We headline a club on the sneakers and back doors. Walk through the kitchen, got plenty ink on our passports. And not to mention our queens ain't pushing no rap for us. What you think I rap for? I'm building my legs.
A little D-Smoke for you on the Tavis Smiley Show with Kevin Powell. Kevin, what is this this obsession that some in the hip-hop community have with one Donald J. Trump?
A lot of us want to be white men, honestly. It's not even some new phenomenon. We've been rapping about Donald Trump for years, even before he became this rabid outward racist, because he was always the outward racist, and we were paying attention. Central Park 5, the man took out an ad in major newspapers calling for the death of the Central Park 5, the exonerated 5 now. This is back in the day. This is who this man is. His father was a slumlord in New York City. They were exploiting people all over the place to build, to pad their wallets, to pad their bag. And so I just think we as black folks can't act like this is some new phenomenon of who he is, but I also think that a lot of us really aspire to, because we need to be looking at Miles and Tavis Smiley and Reginald Lewis, and there's so many black men in our history and in our are present day that we can look to for examples. And here we are talking about, well, he's not that bad, and he gets the job done, at least he takes no shorts from people. I'm like, that's your limited definition of manhood, that you're going to put someone up there who could care less about black people and brown people and working class poor people, could care less about women, and we can go down a list, could care less about immigrants, queer folks, disabled folks, different. He's made fun of all the groups I just listed. He's helped to perpetuate policies that affected all these different types of people. One thing I need to say, brother, I think it was beautiful, the conversation with you and Miles and me, because that's the kind of conversation that black people and black men specifically need to have about our music. Last week I was on a Zoom call with a bunch of brothers talking about hip hop at 50, and we were different ages, and I think we need to have those kind of conversations with each other. And so I just wanted to thank you and Miles for even doing that, because I thought it was powerful to invite Brother Miles in like that.
No, I appreciate it. Miles always has something good to say. Well, not always. I don't want to pump him up. I don't want to pump him up too much. But no, he's a brilliant young cat, and I love bringing him in these dialogues.
Yes,
how did you tell me quickly how you read the video that went viral of Kamala Harris and you're celebrating hip hop? I ain't mad at anybody for celebrating the anniversary of this iconic and now hegemonic music around the globe, and yet I have certain misgivings about politicians who do things like that. How did you read that moment?
Votes. We need votes. Biden's doing really poorly in the polls. They know that Donald Trump could still win the re-election next year in spite of everything that's being thrown at him. And they need black folks badly. And let's get some black folks over here who are rappers because they got following. I mean, listen, when I interviewed Snoop and Tupac back in the day for Vibe magazine, they both said to me, we got 5-6 million people buying our records. That's 5-6 million voters. I never forgot that. And so if you got Lil Wayne and all these other folks there, that means that you understand they got constituencies that are going to pay attention if I'm partying with them. So I'm not saying there's no integrity whatsoever. I'll leave that to other folks to decide. But I will say that they're desperate, and that was a desperation move for me, because I'm like, you know, if we really love black people, like you said, I heard it as I was coming on your show, voting rights, you know, we got so many different issues that we need to, black folks helped to get them into the White House. We know what it was, Tavis. And so where are our concerns being addressed on a regular basis? I'm going to say it again. There's a disproportionate amount of black people, especially black males, that I'm seeing homeless all around this country. Who's going to help them after the 24 election?
Our remaining moments with Kevin Powell when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good.
Yeah, man.
Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
What's up, party people? It's your favorite MC's favorite rapper, MC Light here. And we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. And we're going to take it way back to where it started. It was only fitting that hip-hop began with teenagers at a back-to-school jam in the rec room of a South Bronx apartment complex by an 18-year-old brother. By the way, I'm also sure he had a Cadillac parked outside. He noticed the energy on the dance floor when he switched between two turntables, extending the beats, repeating the breaks, and never losing the rhythms. And that was the birth of hip-hop. And from that moment, it took off.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
Heart failure, carpal tunnel syndrome, shortness of breath, stomach issues, lower back pain. How does it all add up? If you have heart failure and any of those seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, it's time to talk with your cardiologist and get the full picture. They may add up to transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy. ATTR-CM is a rare and underdiagnosed disease. Recognize the signs and discuss them with your doctor soon. Learn more at connectwithyourheart.com. That's connectwithyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest spot.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
The bounce is back. What? Yeah.
What
California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Sounds different, huh? This is Tavis Smiley.
This is Tavis Smiley in dialogue with Kevin Powell. His piece for Politico, which I highly recommend, is called Hip Hop in America Are Changing and Not for the Better. Take some time and just sit still and read it. I think you'll be empowered by it. Hip Hop in America Are Changing and Not for the Better. The piece by Kevin Powell, you can find it right now on Politico. That said, in the 3 minutes I have left, Kevin, I want to come back to something that I jotted down. You can't see me because, well, if you're watching on YouTube or the app or something, but you can't see me right now. But I wrote this down. I grabbed my pen so fast here in the studio and wrote this down because it hit me pretty viscerally when you said it. And I want to close our conversation with this because this is much bigger than just hip hop, obviously. This notion that you raised earlier, that too many of us are engaged in a narrow defining of who we are, a narrow defining of who we are. I wonder if we can close our dialogue today talking about that frame, that too many of us are engaged in defining our contributions, our hopes, our dreams, our aspirations, our fears, you name it. But there's this narrow definition that too many of us, I think, are advancing about who we are, and that's beyond troublesome for me. Let's close on that note. Please tell me more.
You know, I'll say like this. I want to shout out Bell Hooks, who would have been 71 yesterday. And she just challenged me when I was a young man sitting up under her feet, Tavis, that we as Black folks have to be intellectually curious for the rest of our lives. We have to be constant learners. I mean, you're doing what I do all the time as well. Even when I was in the studio with you back in December, I'm writing stuff down, too, because we should be taking notes. We should be asking ourselves. We should be rigorous about study. And I think about that a lot because I think it's not just about hip-hop. It's like you said, it's bigger than hip-hop. This whole country has been dumbed down significantly. Think about from the time that you started your media career, Tavis, to where we are now, how much this country has been severely dumbed down, you know. And I'm talking across the board. Very few of us know American history. Many of us can't connect the dots, even are able to articulate basic stuff. But when I go overseas, my wife and I were just in Africa and Europe, for example. I've been to Japan. I've been places. They know us better than we know ourselves. I'm talking about Black folks. They know Black history. They know the Civil Rights Movement. They know what's going on. It's mind-blowing. And so I think that we need to challenge ourselves as Black folks, to all people in this country, like, you know, because when you even look at the support for Donald Trump, it's because people simply are enthusiastically ignorant, not just comfortable with being ignorant, but just enthusiastic about it. And we as Black folks can ill afford. And so it's not really just about the music, but like, are we good with just talking about the same stuff over and over again when all this is happening around us? I mean, for Christ's sakes, you know, brother, you have a building, y'all have, you know, a Black-owned business there. I mean, this should be applauded, but we need more examples of that. It should not just be 3 Black-owned radio stations that are doing what you are doing, and VON in Chicago and Word in Philadelphia. You know, if we have more Black millionaires than ever before, billionaires that we've never seen before, we got to ask ourselves, why are we still subjected to the whims of mainstream media when we could be creating our own outlets? Why did I write the piece for Politico? Because no Black outlets asked me to write the piece as if I don't even exist. And I love my people. I love my people. You know how much I love my people, Tavis Smiley. I love Black people profoundly. And so we got to ask ourselves, you know, where are we at here in 2023, 24? It's not just about the presidential election. It's really about the future of our people, something that you've been trying to help us think about and explore for many, many years in different ways. And I think it's more critical than ever. I liken this period to what happened during Reconstruction, where we are now, where, you know, things were shut down, and we got to figure out what are we going to build and create out of all this. I have hope, Tavis. That article is a love letter. I have hope because of conversations like this with Miles and the things I've seen around the country. But everyone's got to have a plan. Tavis Smiley has his plan. What is your plan? He knows what he owns. He knows what he's building. What are you building and creating Black people? That's the question we got to ask ourselves.
Well, Kevin Powell's got a plan, too, and it includes writing brilliant pieces that make us think, re-examine the assumptions we hold, expand our inventory of ideas, see the world through a different prism, and not engage in a narrow definition of who we are. His piece for Politico is called Hip Hop in America Are Changing and Not for the Better. I'd only add to WURD, The Word in Philadelphia, WVON, The Voice of the Negro in Chicago, WBOK in New Orleans, owned by our friend Wendell Pierce. So there's another one.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
yes.
Wendell owns
yes.
BOK, WBOK in New Orleans, and I'm delighted to be heard on all three of them. Kevin Powell, I love you. There ain't nothing you can do about it. Thanks for the conversation, my friend.
Have a blessed day. See you soon in L.A.
Likewise. And that's the phrase of the day. Enthusiastically ignorant. Not just ignorant. I love that line. Enthusiastically ignorant. I digress. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. President Biden heads to Michigan today.